It's the beginning of a new year, and that means that there's plenty of omnibuses to be looking forward to. Even if it seems like no one told DC. Woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and we're back with another video. Kicking this list off in 15th place and probably already getting people brandishing the pitchforks is going to be the Uncanny X-Men Volume 5. Now yes, I know for a lot of people they've been waiting years for this announcement and they've got that nostalgia, but this wasn't really the comics that I was reading when I was getting into this hobby. So it's not as high on the list of priorities for me, but it's still one that I'm looking forward to. The Uncanny X-Men is one of the only Silver Age series of omnibuses that I've actually got in my collection. But admittedly, it's not one of those situations where I just finished Volume 4 and I'm eagerly anticipating what's going to happen next. It may be complete blasphemy to say this in the comic community, but I treat these like a series of anthologies. So when I do want to dip in and read a certain storyline like Dark Phoenix Saga or Days of Future Past, then I'm always glad to have these in my collection so that I can jump into it. So I am glad that Marvel's continuing this line. I know some people aren't happy with it because it's missing issues or double dipping, which is something that I might discuss in an upcoming video. But for now, let's just be happy that this volume exists and enjoy it in whichever way we want to. Number 14, another Silver Age book that I didn't think I'd ever see solicited, but it's Daredevil Volume 2. Now I do just want to point out here that I'm only going to be including books that have been solicited up to about July, so there may be some titles that have already been announced that aren't going to feature in this video because I'm going to include them in a sequel video, which is probably also going to come out around July. But Daredevil is one of those characters that I collect absolutely every single omnibus that's been released. I've even got the Silver Age Volume 1 and I read a good chunk of it, so the fact that we're getting a Volume 2 and hopefully it means that they're going to continue this line is something that's very exciting to me. Number 13, I'm going to go with Dark Knight's Metal. Now I feel a little bit mean because this is so high up on the list, and mostly because of the fact that this is the only DC Omnibus that's on here. Yep, it's almost as if DC completely forgot that they had this format in the first place. But despite that, Dark Knight's Metal is holding down the fort and it is one that I'm excited to get my hands on. I haven't read anything of this event, but it's Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, so I am happy to dive into this on a blind buy. I've made it no secret that I'm an event apologist, and this might be something that features in my season of events later on in summer, mostly because of the fact that I was hearing the hype about this, but I don't really know anything about the story. But for me, as somebody who wasn't following this in single issues, I'm very excited that this is going to be released and that I can just enjoy the full thing. Number 12, and I'm getting by on a technicality on this one because it's the Predator Omnibus Volume 1. Now I have not seen many copies of these appear over here in the UK, so it's probably going to be in 2023 that I finally get my hands on this. And I just want to point out now that in the past I have had a rule that was like, if a book has been included in a previous most anticipated video, then it's not going to feature in the current one. But let's be honest, Marvel has pushed back a massive amount of these dates. I can't even remember what books were included in which video, and with it being a new year, maybe it's just time for a fresh start. Because I remember that the Predator Omnibus was one of those that originally got solicited and then later got cancelled, and I was very disappointed with that because Predator is one of my favourite characters that has come out of the 80s era of slasher horrors. I know he's more sci-fi, but admittedly, if I saw a Predator coming towards me, I would just assume that he's going to kill me, mostly by slashing me up. And I've got the Dark Horse version of this title, but the Marvel Omnibus seems to include more material, and it just looks really well put together, and it's going to go great alongside the Alien volumes. So even though I don't think I'm going to be able to resist doing my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression whilst I'm reading this, it's still one that I definitely want to get my hands on. Number 11, I'm going to go with Spider-Gwen Goes Spider. Again, this is another complete blind buy to me, but I absolutely love Spider-Gwen's character and what they've done with it. I cracked open the first omnibus and I was very pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it, so I'm very willing to take a blind buy on this one and see exactly where they take this character. I thought she was just going to be one of those that was a gimmick that wouldn't really work out in the long run, and who knows, maybe this sequel volume will prove me right. But more than anything, I'm just glad to see that Marvel's so committed to pushing modern runs out in this format. So I do not know what waits for me in this volume, but that's actually one of the reasons why I'm really eager to buy this. Sometimes it's nice not knowing what's waiting for you beyond the front cover, because who knows, maybe this was just a typo and it was supposed to say Spider-Gwen Ghost Rider, because that is a very easy mistake, and I'm not just saying that because it was something that I did whilst I was scripting this video. As well, Marvel's pushing this out with 3 covers, and I don't know if that's something that's a good sign or a bad sign, because on one hand they did that for Miracle Man, but on the other hand they're doing that for August 1962, or whichever month it is. Forgive me for not remembering what the title of that one is. Number 10, I'm going to go with The Immortal Iron Fist by Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction. Now I know there was about 300 other people that worked on the series, but admittedly this run did take a bit of a dive after they left. But either way, this book was an OG for me. It was completely by accident that I stumbled onto this because of the fact that I was reading so much Daredevil, and after I read his run on The Man Without Fear, I thought I might as well take a chance on this series. And I'm so glad that I did. Maybe I've got nostalgia glasses on with this one, and I'm going to be really disappointed when I actually crack this open. But I was way too poor when they first printed this omnibus, and I'm so glad that they've done an expanded version, because even though it isn't as great in the second half as it is in the first, it's still a decent read. So Marvel, on the slimmest of slim chances that you're watching this, I am begging you to not push this back again, because I've already sold my complete collection so that I could upgrade. Number 9, and I know that some people are going to be annoyed that I've put this way higher than the Uncanny X-Men Volume 5, but I'm going with the Fantastic Four by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. Now, when I was first getting into this hobby, this was an omnibus that was announced, and we're talking like back in 2009. And Mark Millar, for as much as some people may not like him, I have found everything that I've read of his to be really entertaining. I've read the first half of this run years and years ago, but it's something that I never really returned to. It seems to be a run that a lot of people have forgotten about, myself included for the most part, but I feel like this is going to be worth buying it for the Brian Hitch art alone. He is phenomenal, and his work on the Ultimates is some of the first artwork that I saw in comics that I really took a moment to just admire. So again, maybe this is one that the nostalgia is going to ruin it for me, but either way, I am very excited that this is resolicited after nearly a decade. And at the end of the day, I've always believed that people should be able to enjoy whichever comics they want to, which is why I'm not going to listen to the naysayers, and I cannot wait for this to enter the dog pound. Number 8, I'm going to go with Spider-Man 2099. This probably would have been higher on the list if it hadn't been cancelled and resolicited at a higher price, but that's just the cost of living, and it probably means that I'll just have to turn the heating off for another day so that I can afford this. And I found so many random single issues of this series that I feel like I've read quite a bit of this run, but I still can't tell you what was happening beginning to end. Either way, I'm very hyped for this book, and I'd rather it be resolicited for a higher price than cancelled altogether. And along with the upcoming Into the Spider-Verse movie, hopefully this means that this character is going to get a lot more publicity. And as well, it's written by Peter David, a guy that can pretty much do no wrong, so why wouldn't I buy this? Number 7, I'm going to go with the Savage Avengers. This might actually be the last series that I ever read in single issues, and it's one that I'm definitely going to get the omnibus for. It feels like it's an Avengers team in name only, because you've got many characters that often don't even work together. So you've got Venom, Elektra, Wolverine, Punisher, Doctor Strange, and the main selling point of this series, Conan the Barbarian. And yeah, you might just think that that's a dumb marketing tactic, but either way, it got me into it. But you've got phenomenal artwork by Mike Deodato, and you also just get the feeling that Jerry Dugan really wanted to make this a great series. He knew that there might be some reservations towards this team existing in the first place, and he just wanted to give them the best story. So it's not one of those series where you feel like they take the characters but completely change the personalities so they can facilitate the plot, and it does explore more of the dark mysticism that exists within the Marvel universe. So if you enjoyed something like Justice League Dark, maybe this would be something that you should be hyped for as well. And admittedly, because of the rights issues that are going on with Conan, and me not being nearly smart enough to understand the legality of that, I decided to pre-order this one so that there was no chance that I missed out on it. And I recommend that you do the same if you really want this title, and you can already order it from the channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. They've got great packaging, fast shipping, and amazing customer services, and if you use code WOOFWOOF, you'll get $2 off your order. And if you're ordering 3 or more books and you want them to be delivered together, make sure you use code WOOFWOOF, ship it together for 5% off your entire order. Don't worry, you can just copy and paste them from the description down below, and you can use these codes as many times as you like. Number 6, I've got X-23 Volume 1. Again, this is another one that reminds me of when I was first getting into this hobby, and it was for the weirdest reason. Now, my birthday's on the 23rd of October, and yes, I do accept gifts, and also, well, just money. So 23 is my lucky number, and I knew absolutely nothing about Laura or the fact that she was a Wolverine clone, although I kind of assumed it after I saw the front cover, but still ended up picking up a couple of issues of this, and I remember really enjoying it. But I never followed through with the rest of the series, mostly because of the fact that she wasn't Daredevil. But now that I'm older and I was kicking myself because I missed out on the complete collections, and also because I reviewed All New Wolverine last year, which is a series that I really enjoyed, some people seem to think that I didn't because I only gave it a 70%. And for the record, I wouldn't even give my own book 100%, so getting a 70 is pretty damn good. But I'm really interested in seeing the early years of her character and the figuring out process of who exactly she is. Sometimes they can be the most interesting stories for a character, so I'm just really glad that Marvel's printing this. Number 5, and the highest rated reprint on this list, I'm going to go with The Silver Surfer by Dan Slott. I missed out on the original printing of this book by just a couple of weeks, and with all of these reprint announcements that Marvel's been releasing, there haven't really been that many that I need to jump on. However, as soon as I heard about this one, I knew it was going to be a day one buy, so that's why it's so high up on the list. When this was first coming out in single issues, I hadn't really seen a lot of Mike Allred's art, yet since then I've read stuff like Batman 66, and I really appreciate what he brings to the page. And Dan Slott, for as much as some people may not like him, I've enjoyed the majority of his series that I've read. Normally I'm used to seeing him doing much longer runs, so I'm really excited to jump in something that seems a lot more self-contained, and about a character that I really like, but I often don't get to see a lot of. So hopefully this keeps the momentum of the first couple of issues which I've already checked out, because it's something that I really want to get my hands on. Number 4, and this isn't even me just being an event apologist, because it's House of M. This is something that I went back to during last season's Summer of Events, and I absolutely loved this. I genuinely think that this might be my favourite Marvel event that I've ever read. And on top of that, the majority of the tie-ins are great as well. This is one of the best complete events, and I missed out on picking up those 4 or 5 hardcovers that they used to do. So the fact that Marvel's giving us pretty much all of this under one omnibus is just phenomenal, and it's something that I'm definitely not going to miss out on. Sure, yeah, it was during a time where Marvel seemed to really want to just beat up the X-Men, but this to me was when Brian Michael Bendis was pretty much at his best, and I'm just so excited to have this in my collection. Now in 3rd place and getting that bronze medal is a book that the more that I've thought about it, the more hype that I've been getting, and that is the Thunderbolts Volume 3. Now the Thunderbolts is a team that I've always enjoyed reading, but I didn't realise that this was part of the series that was coming out when I was first getting into comics. And yes, because I was a massive Brian Michael Bendis fan, I did end up picking up a few issues of this series because it was coming out at a similar time as the New Avengers. And I loved the New Avengers, so anything that seemed sort of like it was something that I was going to be buying. So I have read a handful of issues throughout this, and I do really remember enjoying this, but it seems to be a part of the Thunderbolts history that most people don't talk about. I'm not exactly where this omnibus finishes up, but I hope it's part of the run that also includes Luke Cage, because that was my favourite era of Thunderbolts, and it's something that I really want to jump back into. But especially with the movie coming out soon, I found myself wanting to jump into more runs for this team. But either way, I'm glad that Marvel's continuing with this imprint in the Marvel Omnibus format, and it's something that I'm definitely going to be picking up. Number 2, and probably at any other time this would have made it to the top of the list, but I'm gonna go with the Superior Spider-Man. Yep, for years we've been wanting this title in the Omnibus format, and finally it's happening. This does just take me back to the good old days where I had enough money to be collecting comics and single issues, and what a weird, wacky, Freaky Friday type of story this was for everybody's favourite wall crawler. But for anybody who hasn't read this run, just jump into it blind and you're gonna have a good time. I like that this also includes the few issues of the Amazing Spider-Man that came out before Superior started, because it does mean that this makes it a complete reading experience. Even though I would highly recommend it, you don't have to read everything else that Dan Slott wrote before this. And the Superior Spider-Man is one of the best runs for the web slinger that has come out in the last decade, so much so that I had to include it in my Where to Start Spider-Man. So of course it's going to make it very high on this list because it's something that I need to pick up immediately. But before we jump into my number 1 pick, I'm just going to give you a few honourable mentions, the first one being the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Now I don't believe I've read any of this, but I've seen this character cropping up in a lot of other series, and I am enjoying those interactions, so I might pick this up, but I'm probably going to read it on Marvel Unlimited first. Another honourable mention is pretty much everything Star Wars that's coming out, some including Dr. Aphra Volume 2, The New Republic, Rebellion, and any of the others that I might have forgotten along the way. I love the Star Wars books that Marvel's been putting out, but unfortunately I just can't really keep track of them. After that, and I'm lumping these two together, it's The Incredible Hulk by Peter David Volume 5 and Maestro by Peter David. Now it seems like these are quite thin, so I don't really understand why Marvel didn't put these two together, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to buy both of them, but I reckon I'll pick up at least one. Which one? I don't know, so stay tuned to find out. Another honourable mention, I'm going to go with Loki God of Stories. Now I've already read Loki Agent of Asgard, which I did enjoy, but I don't really know too much about the other series. I probably will end up checking them out, and if I enjoy them I would be hyped enough to retrospectively put this further up on the list. And my last honourable mention is going to be Black Cat by Jed MacKay. I don't think I've ever read any solo Black Cat series, I don't even know if they exist. I'm just assuming that there was probably at least one in the 90s. But I've heard great things about this, and I love the art style, and Black Cat is a character that I often enjoy, so that seems like a recipe for success. So if I look into this series a bit more, I probably will end up picking this up. But my number 1 pick should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody if you've watched this channel before, because it's the 2nd volume of Ultimate Spider-Man. I think this might have been my number 1 pick last time I did this type of video, but unfortunately it did get delayed. But Ultimate Spider-Man was the series that got me into comics in the first place. I absolutely love it, and I'm so happy that Marvel's continuing this line, because it was only a couple of years before this that they printed a first volume and just never followed it up. I am a little bit biased because I do think that Ultimate Spider-Man is just the best, and I know that some people don't like the Ultimate Marvel Universe. They will make a point of telling it you at every opportunity, but with how expensive stuff has gotten recently, I'm only going to get a book if I know that I love it. And out of everything that's coming out in the next 6 months, the title that I know that I love more than any other is definitely going to be the 2nd volume of Ultimate Spider-Man. So that's the video. Hopefully you've had a good new year and you're looking forward to a great 2023. But until next time, just make sure that you stay safe and stay mad, all you dogs. Woof woof. See you at the next video.